I introduce now Michela Miletto. She is the Deputy Coordinator Director of the World Water Assessment Program of UNESCO. The title of this presentation is Nature-Based Solutions for Water, the 2018 United Nations World Water Development Report. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Distinguished participants, ladies, gentlemen, dear colleagues. First of all, please let me express my gratitude to Franco Maria Ricci, to the University of Parma, to Paolo Capreti and all the team of the Labirinto for inviting us to think about water in this beautiful and unique location, and to celebrate the International World Water Day. On behalf of the World Water Assessment Program of UNESCO, it is my pleasure and my privilege to present at the Labirinto dell'Amazzone the 2018 edition of the United Nations World Water Development Report dedicated to nature-based solutions for water. Yesterday, the World Water Development Report 2018 has been officially launched at the World Water Forum in Brasilia and is being presented in more than 30 different locations in the world. It is presented today for the first time in Italy at the Labirinto. Let me say a few words about WWAP, the World Water Assessment Program, which is a UNESCO program funded by the Italian government and hosted in Italy, in Perugia, thanks to the Regione Umbria. The key mandate of WWAP is to assess and report on the state, quality and quantity, use and management of freshwater resources in the world. The World Water Development Report is the flagship publication of the United Nations on freshwater resources. For the production of this report, WWAP coordinates the work of 31 UN agencies and other members of UN Water. Until 2012, the report was released only every 3 years and presented as an assessment of water resources at global scale. Starting in 2014, the report is released on a national basis and focuses on the theme chosen for the World Water Day. Let me give a brief overview of the past WWDRs. The 2014 edition that was focused on water and energy. That is the two-way relationship between how much water is required to generate and transmit energy and how much energy it takes to collect, move, clean, store, and dispose of water. The challenge is to recognize and reconcile competing demands of water resources at the water nexus. Nowhere is this truer or more urgent than for energy. Growing energy needs, particularly in China, India, and in Middle East, will translate into growing freshwater withdrawal and consumption to keep up with electricity demand, expected to grow by approximately 70% by 2035. It has to be stressed that 90% of global electricity generation is water intensive, and that for the coming decades, in spite of policies promoting renewables, the world's global energy system will continue to rely on fossil fuels, which require high amounts of water for cooling. WWDR 2015, the edition on water in a sustainable world, examines the many, often complex interdependencies between water and the social, economic, environmental dimension of sustainable development. Water is at the core of sustainable development, and its centrality should be recognized when dealing with the three dimensions and to reach sustainable development goals by 2030. WWDR 2016, Water and Jobs, demonstrates how opportunities for employment growth and decent jobs are contingent upon the sustainable management of water resources and the provision of water-related services. The report estimates that 1.35 billion jobs, representing 42% of the world's total active workforce, are likely to be heavily water dependent. If we include moderately water-dependent jobs, the conclusion is that 3 out of 4 jobs that make up the entire global workforce are water-dependent. WWDR 2017, titled Wastewater, the Untapped Resource, highlighted that 80% of wastewater is discharged in the environment without treatment, and demonstrated how wastewater is not a burden, but a valuable resource to be included in the circular economy. And now we are at the WWDR 2018, titled Nature-Based Solution for Water. The report demonstrates how nature-based solutions offer a vital means of moving beyond business as usual to address many of the world water challenges, while simultaneously delivering additional benefits vital to all aspects of sustainable development. But what do we mean by nature-based solutions for water? A definition is that NBS use or mimic natural processes to enhance water availability. For example, soil moisture retention, groundwater recharge, improve water quality, like natural and constructed wetlands, riparian buffer strips, and reduce risks associated with water-related disasters and climate change, like floodplain restoration, green roofs. Currently, water management remains heavily dominated by traditional human-built, the so-called gray infrastructure, and the enormous potential for NBS remains underutilized. NBS include the green infrastructures that can substitute, augment, or work in parallel with gray infrastructure in a cost-effective manner. The goal is to find the most appropriate blend of green and gray investments to maximize benefits and system efficiency while minimizing cost and trade-off. Let's see this map. Blend gray and green solution is not only beneficial, it is also urgent and crucial in view of the growing threats related to water. The global demand for water has been increasing at a rate of about 1% per year over the past decades and will continue to grow significantly over the foreseeable future. The population currently affected by land degradation, desertification, and drought is estimated at 1.8 billion people. Water pollution has worsened in the world since the 1990s, particularly in Latin America, Africa, and Asia. The number of people at risk from floods is projected to rise from 1.2 billion today to around 1.6 billion in 2050. Ecological processes in forest, grasslands, wetlands, as well as in agricultural and urban landscape, play a major role in the movement, storage, and transformation of water. Evaporation from the vegetation and soils from terrestrial ecosystem can be a very important source of precipitation for other areas. Land use decisions in one place may significantly influence water availability in distant locations due to the atmospheric circulation and moistures. Rather than being regarded as water consumers, ecosystems are perhaps more appropriately viewed as water recyclers. A few examples. 70% of the rainfall for the Rio de la Plata Basin in South America originates as evaporation from the Amazon forest. Evaporation in the Congo River Basin, which is a source of rainfall for the Sahel region. Evaporation from across Central Africa plays an important role in generating flows for the Nile via the Ethiopian highlights. Ecosystem degradation has major negative impact on hydrology from local to regional and global scales, and is therefore a leading cause of increasing water resources management challenges. NBS contributes to reversing trends in ecosystem degradation. We need to enhance our ability to shift from working against nature to working with nature. NBS include green infrastructure that can substitute, augment, or work in parallel with human-built gray infrastructure in a cost-effective manner, providing alternative options for coping with insufficient or aging water infrastructures while improving system-wide resilience and performance. NBS support a circular economy that promotes greater resource productivity, aiming to reduce waste and avoid pollution, including through reuse and recycling, and is restorative and regenerative by design, in contrast to a linear economy, which is take, make, dispose model of production. Availability. The option of building more reservoirs is increasingly limited by silting, decrease of available runoff, social and environmental concerns and restrictions, and the fact that in many developed countries, the most cost-effective and viable sites have already been used. In many cases, more ecosystem-friendly forms of water storage, such as natural wetlands, improvement in soil moistures, and more efficient recharge of groundwater could be more sustainable and cost-effective than traditional gray infrastructure, such as dams in certain areas. The main opportunities for NBS to increase productivity are in rain-fed systems that account for the bulk of current production and family farming, and hence provide the greatest livelihood and poverty reduction benefits. But also in the urban settlement, we can see how NBS can work. NBS for addressing water availability in urban settlements are also of great importance, especially given that over half of the world population is now living in cities, a percentage that is still increasing. Example of measures to regulate water supply for urban settlements include reforestation, restoration or constructions of wetlands, new connections between rivers and floodplains, water harvesting, permeable pavements, and green spaces, which collectively promote bioretention and soil infiltration. China's Sponge City concept and program represent a good example of NBS, improving urban water supplies at scale, based largely on deploying green infrastructure approaches in urban landscapes, primarily to improve water availability. Non-point diffuse source pollution from agriculture, notably nutrients, remains a critical problem worldwide, including in developed countries. NBS can help improve nutrient recycling within soils and thus lower fertilizer use and reduce nutrient runoff and infiltration into the groundwater. Wetlands are used also with urban environments to mitigate the impact of polluted stormwater runoff and wastewater. Both natural and constructed wetlands also biodegrade, and there is evidence that can immobilize a range of emerging pollutants, including certain pharmaceutical, and often perform better than gray solutions. Around 30% of the global population is estimated to reside in areas and regions often impacted by either flood or drought events. NBS for flood management can involve water retention by managing infiltration and overland flow, thus making space for storing excess water through, for example, the restoration of floodplains. Droughts are not limited to dry areas, as it's sometimes portrayed, but can also pose a disaster risk in regions that are normally non-water scarce. The mix of potential NBS for drought mitigation are essentially the same as those for water availability and aim to improve water storage capacity in landscapes, including soils and groundwater, to cushion against periods of extreme scarcity. Having established all these impressive things that can be accomplished using NBS, one has to wonder, how comes that they are not being implemented on a broader scale? We try to answer that. Water management is heavily dominated by traditional human-built gray infrastructure, and the enormous potential for NBS remain underutilized. Evidence suggests that NBS account for less than 5% of the total expenditure in water resources management. The green versus gray infrastructure debate suggests that it is necessary to choose one or the other, whereas in reality the choice is which blend of each is most appropriate. There are examples where nature-based approach offer the main or only viable solution. For example, landscape restoration to combat land degradation and desertification. And example where only a gray solution will work. For example, supplying water to the household through pipes and pumps. But in most cases, green and gray infrastructures can and should be working together. The goal is to find the most appropriate blend of green and gray infrastructure to maximize benefits and system efficiency while minimizing cost and trade-off. A key feature of NBS is that they usually offer multiple water-related benefits and often help address water quantity, quality, and risk simultaneously, even if only one is being targeted by the intervention. Another key advantage of NBS is the way in which they contribute to building overall system resilience. In addition, NBS often offer co-benefits beyond water-related ecosystem services. The substantial value of this co-benefit can tip investment decisions in favor of NBS. Moreover, they offer high potential to contribute to the achievement of most of the targets of SDGs, the water SDG, of the 2030 Agenda, and to the achievement of the other SDGs. NBS have been taken into account equitably alongside other options for water resources management. Here are some of the ways to facilitate the green-gray solutions blending. First, NBS do not necessarily require additional financing resources, but usually involve redirecting and making more effective use of existing financing. Second, payment for environmental services schemes provide monetary and non-monetary incentives to upstream communities and generate benefit to downstream water users in the form of water regulation, flood control, and erosion and sediment control. For example, 3 protected watersheds provide New York City with the largest unfiltered water supply in the US. NBS can require much greater levels of cross-sectoral and institutional collaboration than gray infrastructure approaches. This can bring groups of stakeholders together under a common agenda. Traditional or local community knowledge of ecosystem functioning and the nature-society interaction can be a significant asset. As closing statement, we can say that sustainable water security will not be achieved through business as usual. Increased deployment of NBS is central to meeting the key contemporary water resources management challenges of sustaining and improving water availability and its quality while reducing water-related risks. Without a most rapid uptake of NBS, water security will continue to decline, and probably rapidly so. NBS offer a vital means to move beyond business as usual. And with this, I end my presentation, and I thank you very much.